Well, it's time to do it. It's time to turn the page from Trey Lance to the 49ers' next big challenge, Nick Bosa and his contract extension. That is why I spent essentially all day yesterday. I was up till 1 or 2 a.m. writing this. How Trey Lance and Nick Bosa impact the 49ers' focus on salary cap sustainability. This is all really, really important stuff, especially right now because we are in the mode of the 49ers 53-man roster cut down. By 1 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, the 49ers have to cut from their 90-man roster down to their 53-man roster. Yesterday, per the NFL Wire, the 49ers made a transaction, by the way. They released Taco Charlton with an injury settlement. Now, Taco was already on IR, so he wasn't counting against the 90-man roster. 49ers released him with the injury settlement. You can't just release somebody who's hurt without coming to terms with them. The settlement dictates, and I don't know how long because I don't know the language of it, but it dictates that Taco Charlton can now re-sign or sign with any team, but not re-sign with the 49ers for a specified period of time. I don't know how long that period of time is. We'd have to have insight into the agreement. Anyway, that's the update to begin the roster cut down, but we're focusing on the bigger picture right now. And the whole Trey Lance journey for the 49ers was one that was underscored by a desire for long-term financial flexibility, and I'll explain. Obviously, long-term financial flexibility has a lot to do with the other guy up on the screen, the guy in the white jersey. That's Nick Bosa, because the 49ers are trying to finalize a contract extension for him that might be the largest contract for a defensive player of all time. When Nick Bosa does finally re-sign with the 49ers, it will be the largest contract in 49ers history, surpassing the contract that Jimmy Garoppolo signed back in 2018. So you obviously need financial flexibility to do that. But, we're also turning the page from Trey Lance, and I know I've talked about which angle of the experiment that obviously failed for the 49ers here over the past couple of years. But it's really important to understand why they first delved into the Trey Lance experiment. And it has a lot to do with money. You might wonder, okay, wait, did they use a ton of capital on Trey Lance? What are you talking about? Well, let me explain. Take a look at this line from the article. Zoom in on it, spread it out across the screen. Kyle Shanahan had a revelatory answer when he was asked about the Trey Lance situation. I think this was from KMBR the other day. This is a theme that has persisted throughout the entire time that the 49ers have had Trey Lance, and whenever they talk about the impetus to go and draft him, trade up and draft him. Kyle Shanahan said this, quote, "When you go back to 3 years ago, we made a commitment looking at our roster. We felt it was important with our roster going forward that eventually we were going to need a quarterback on a rookie deal if we wanted to keep this team together. We made that decision after the 2020 season, and we weren't going to look back after that." Shanahan then offered more context. He added that the 49ers calculated that they wouldn't be able to afford their growing collection of star power if they held on to a big money quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo was making $27 million per year at the time, beyond the 2021 season. So the plan called for one season of overlap in 2021 between Garoppolo and Lance. So Jimmy Garoppolo was a $27 million per season quarterback for the 49ers. Then the 49ers traded all that draft capital up to get Trey Lance. And according to what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have said about roster sustainability within the context of the salary cap, it makes sense because Trey Lance cost the 49ers only $8.5 million per year. But obviously, Trey Lance didn't work out. Now, a big reason why Lance didn't work out is that the 49ers, while Trey was hurt, discovered a quarterback who's costing them $889,000 this year. So the 49ers went from $27 million to $8.5 million to Brock Purdy $889,000. The big motivation for the 49ers throughout, and it's evidenced by, what I just showed you, what I wrote about Kyle Shanahan as it pertained to the Trey Lance maneuver after the 2020 season, in the offseason of 2021. The big motivation was for the 49ers to be able to maintain their growing collection of star power. This team went to the Super Bowl in 2019. They went to the Super Bowl as a young team in 2019. Yes, they had a few bigger money veterans, but they weren't at the level that they are now as far as needing to pay their own. Nick Bosa was still a rookie in 2019. They had just paid DeForest Buckner. No, they hadn't paid DeForest. They paid Eric Armstead. They had just traded DeForest Buckner after that 2019 season. Deebo Samuel was a rookie in 2019. They weren't close to paying him yet. George Kittle was getting paid in 2020, so he was just reaching the end of his rookie deal or time to re-sign onto another deal. The point is that the core of star players wasn't quite as expensive back in 2020 as it is now, and it's growing more and more expensive as time goes along. The 49ers charted out a plan financially looking into the future around the time of that 2020 season or right after it, where they said, wait, if this core of star power is going to continue growing, and if we're going to continue paying all of these guys, we're going to have to find a way to free up some money elsewhere. And they came to the conclusion that they would need a quarterback on a rookie deal, because this is a quarterback on a veteran deal, and they're even more expensive now. They would need a quarterback on a rookie deal, Brock Purdy, $889,000. It's a nice rookie deal, to be able to fit all of those bigger expenditures. Now, they obviously didn't expect that their quarterback would be as cheap as he is now. They thought it would be around this. They thought it'd be the Trey Lance number. But obviously, Lance didn't work out. Now the 49ers have traded Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys. That's given them $6.3 million of cap savings in 2023 and 2024. And they've moved on to the truly salary cap efficient quarterback. So it's all part of the larger picture as they turn the page toward trying to re-sign Nick Bosa. And they've been trying to do this for a while, but a lot of people are probably wondering, well, why hasn't it happened yet? Well, we can illustrate a little bit. Here's the article. By the way, this is linked in the comments and the description section. I'm going to put it in the comments section as well right now. If you want, you can check it out in the chat. From Trey Lance to Nick Bosa. There it is. Link is there. Also linked in the description. Anyway, the 2023 49ers salary cap situation would actually benefit from the 49ers signing Nick Bosa sooner rather than later. Now, this might confuse some people, so let me explain so you can wrap your head around all of this. But when you look at, I want to open up this right here. When you look at the 49ers spreadsheet for the cap this year, and I have this up on my Twitter, you can go ahead and check out the link. But this is the 49ers financial picture of their projected 53-man roster. In the offseason, only the top 51 contracts count against the salary cap. The 49ers, though, have to create their 53-man roster plus their 16-man practice squad by Tuesday at 1 p.m. So what I've done here is I've projected the roster, and we talked about that yesterday. I'll talk about that more here as the cutdown picks up speed over the course of the next couple days. But I projected the roster, and then I calculated how much it's going to cost, because once the offseason's over, once you have your 53-man roster, that top 51 rule is no longer in effect. So what has to happen is your chosen 53 players plus your 16 practice squatters plus whoever's on injured reserve. So, for example, Taco Charlton was on injured reserve, but now he's not because they reached an injury settlement with him. Everybody, the cumulative sum of their cap hits has to be under the cap. You have to build a financially feasible roster at the cutdown deadline. The reason the 49ers would benefit from signing Nick Bosa sooner rather than later is that his cap hit right now is $17.9 million that you could see right here. When the 49ers sign Bosa, and yes, it will inevitably happen, they're still working on it, and it's taken a little bit longer than they wanted it to take. But when they sign Bosa, his cap hit should go down from 17.9 million, maybe down to 10 million. That's what I projected earlier, because what happens is you give him a long-term deal and you spread a lot of that money out to the future. The NFL cap rules allow you to do this with a signing bonus. It prorates over the portion of the contract. So as you can see right here, my projection of the 49ers 53-man roster and practice squad and the dead money is a very tight one up against the cap. They have $237.5 million of room. This roster that I put together costs $236.95 million. They only have $500,000 of space if this is the roster they use. Now, granted, it's probably going to be a little bit different. There are probably going to be a couple things that don't match up because I'm just making a projection, but you get the idea. They're right up against the cap. So when you're that pressed up against the cap and you need extra money to spend over the course of the season because guys are going to get hurt, you're going to have to re-sign new players, you want flexibility for a trade, you definitely need a few million to open up. Where's that few million going to come from? It's going to come from the guy right here on the right, the white jersey, Nick Bosa, because his cap hit is going to get smaller after the 49ers sign his deal. So now everybody's probably like, what the hell? Why haven't they signed this deal yet? If it incentivizes the 49ers to sign it, if they're incentivized to sign it quicker, why haven't they signed it more quickly than they have? They're waiting right now. And we've got 2 weeks until the season opener. It's August 27th. The 49ers play on September 10th at Pittsburgh. What's the holdup? Well, the holdup is more about the 2024 salary cap jam. And that I can also illustrate for you right here. Take a look at the 49ers total liabilities and the estimated salary cap of future seasons. We don't know the future salary cap until about January, February of each year. So we have to rely on estimates. Over the Cap made an estimate for 2024. You could see their estimate was that the cap is going to be $256 million. This is the 49ers adjusted salary cap, by the way, in 2023. I know that the actual salary cap for the league is $224.8 million, but an adjusted cap includes all the credits and a bunch of other complicated stuff that each individual team gets. So the 49ers are working with $237.5 million. I project them to have $237 million of liabilities. They're going to be right just barely underneath the salary cap. You move to 2024, though, and they're in the red already, and they only have 50 players signed. The estimated cap from over the cap is going to be $256 million. It's going to grow for the 49ers about $20 million. Maybe not even that much, though. That over the cap admits that's a bullish estimate. The 49ers already have $263.5 million in liabilities, and that does not include Nick Bosa. He is not on the books for 2024. I mean, they're pretty damn high up in 2025 with only 42 players at $208 million, but the cap is going to continue increasing. So you could see how this is like surfing a wave. The cap is going to go up, so your expenditures can go up, but they can't go up too fast. And that's where this Nick Bosa contract holdup comes in. The 49ers and Nick Bosa are staring at each other. It's a game of chicken. The two cars are approaching very quickly. They do not want to hit each other, though. Hopefully, one or both parties swerves before September 10th. Because if they don't swerve, they're going to crash, and then nobody benefits. Bosa's going to lose money, $1 million per week. The 49ers are going to lose the productivity of the defensive player of the year if he doesn't play against Pittsburgh. But when you look at the 49ers salary cap situation, you could see why they need to hold a hard line. Every dollar counts at this point. So every dollar counts to the 49ers. Every dollar counts to Nick Bosa. There are no bad guys here. It's business. The problem is that ultimately the optimal business solution for both Nick Bosa and the 49ers is to reach an agreement sooner rather than later. So that's why deadlines typically spur action. And that's why the 49ers have talked about a deadline spurring action. Well, the clock is ticking. A deadline is coming up in exactly 2 weeks. And I would think that, both Bosa and the 49ers would want to approach this with the deadline being a little bit earlier than that, because nobody wants to sign a contract on Saturday and then suit up for the first time in a season in a regular season game at Pittsburgh on a Sunday. So sooner rather than later would be better for the 49ers and Nick Bosa. But it's all about this. It's all about the $263 million of liabilities on a $256 million salary cap. That's where the 49ers are in 2024. They have to think about the future when they execute this Nick Bosa deal. They are thinking about the future. That's why they're holding a hard line. But Nick Bosa, he deserves his cash too, so he could hold a hard line. It's just about resolving the game of chicken. That's what it's about right now. It's about finding that mutually beneficial agreement where both parties are satisfied. Sort of like the Trey Lance deal. 49ers needed to part ways with Trey Lance. Trey Lance wanted a change of scenery. He's gone now. It all ties together, though, from a financial perspective, because the 49ers, they initially went after Trey Lance and a new quarterback after that 2020 season because they wanted cap sustainability. That's what I wrote about. I'm going to pop it open on the screen for you one more time. Go ahead and check out this piece. I go through all of the numbers. I go through, and then I go back to the locker room after the NFC Championship game the 49ers won in 2020, January 2020, 2019 season, where John Lynch was talking about financial sustainability. He said, I think that, this is an awesome collection of talent we have here, but I think the coolest part of this is that we can keep it sustainable. A year later, after the 6-10 season where everybody got hurt in 2020, the 49ers sat down and said, hey, we have a lot of players to pay. We've already paid some good players. If we look into the future, we need to make sure that we have enough of a cushion financially to afford all of this. And their decision after that 2020 season was to go cheaper in the quarterback room. You go cheaper in the quarterback room by having a rookie contract there. Trey Lance, as opposed to Jimmy Garoppolo, who cost $27 million a year, cost only $8.5 million a year. Brock Purdy, as opposed to Trey Lance, costs only $889,000 per year. Obviously, the 49ers saw some luck when they backed in the Brock Purdy. They got very unlucky with Trey Lance. 2 big injuries in 2021 and then 2022. I talk about the needle they tried to thread. They calculated they could hold Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster financially for the 2021 season, which overlapped with Trey Lance's rookie year. So the 49ers thought they could have their cake and eat it too. They tried to walk the tightrope. They tried to develop Lance while also keeping Garoppolo. In retrospect, obviously, that was probably too ambitious. Especially, they cited the Patrick Mahomes model with Kansas City, where Mahomes worked under Alex Smith for a year in 2017 and then took the league by storm in 2018. The difference between Mahomes and Lance is that Mahomes had 32 starts at the D1 college level, FBS, Texas Tech. Trey Lance didn't have 32 starts at North Dakota State. He had a season's worth of starts at North Dakota State. He was much more raw than Patrick Mahomes. So he would take much more mechanical work in a shorter period of time, right? So I think the 49ers tried to thread a needle. They tried to walk a tightrope by keeping Jimmy Garoppolo and trying to usher in Trey Lance's development alongside that. And it turns out you can't build a quarterback in a lab, especially on a tight deadline when he starts getting hurt. And Trey Lance got hurt from the get-go. He broke his finger against the Raiders that 2021 rookie season. Then he got hurt again in 2022. The 49ers then stumbled into Brock Purdy, who had a ton of college experience, 40-plus starts worth of college experience. And perhaps it's just goes back to an old-fashioned mentality. The guy who played in college, the guy who knows the game of football like the back of his hand because he's got so much experience. He ended up being the guy that delivered at the NFL level. Trey Lance obviously hasn't delivered at the NFL level. Yes, injuries did play a major role in this. I've talked about that over and over and over again. But when you're trying to thread a needle, it's probably better to go for experience. And I think that might be the lesson that the 49ers learned throughout this whole process. And now they're in a good spot. They have Purdy at this cheap deal. They can re-sign big players, and they need to move on to re-signing Nick Bosa because it would benefit them, and it will benefit them here in the 2023 salary cap picture. It's about 2024 and beyond where the 49ers have to get financially efficient. They're trying their best to be as financially efficient as possible, and this helps them a lot. The savings from Trey Lance, trading him to the Cowboys, helps a lot. Gives the 49ers a chance to be cap compliant in 2024 sooner, and that, by extension, gives them a chance to potentially make some moves to make the team better right now. So one of the biggest lies you'll see out there is the 49ers didn't get better or didn't give themselves a chance to get better right now with the Trey Lance trade. They completely gave themselves a chance to get better right now with the Trey Lance trade. They freed up $6.3 million over the next 2 years. And salary cap space is fungible between season to season. It carries over. So they could now make transactions in 2023 that they wouldn't have been able to make, or they would have been unwilling to make at the very least, because of their situation in 2024. They still have more work to do to streamline it for 2024. That's for sure. But $6.3 million for a team that is this pressed up against the salary cap, $6.3 million is a significant deal. Anyway, check it out. The article is up there. It's up on The Athletic. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff from around the city today. It's going to be a Sunday fun day in San Francisco. Day off of 49ers in-person coverage. Yesterday, I guess, was a day off too, but we had the Kyle Shanahan conference call. That being said, we're going to start to see transactions come in on the 49ers end. We already have seen Taco Charlton released with an injury settlement. He wasn't counting against the 90, though, because he was already on IR. So we'll see who the 49ers begin cutting officially from the 90-man roster. They've got to get this down to 53. And as they get it down to 53, they have to make sure that this right here is ultimately cap compliant. 53 plus 16. So it's going to be a 69-man roster for the 49ers, including that practice squad. All right, check it out. The 49ers, big motivation for drafting Trey Lance, the whole cap sustainability aspect of everything, and how that ties to Nick Bosa. This is definitely worth your time to read. This kind of stuff is a little bit harder to explain with words because I need the charts. I need to give you all the salary cap details. So this is why you absolutely should be signing up for The Athletic right now. This is one of the primary pillars of the 49ers roster building process that is going to be under heavy scrutiny here over the course of the next couple of years, because they are right up against the salary cap. Again, I cannot emphasize that enough. This is, I mean, it's red for a reason right here, because their total liabilities exceed the estimated salary cap of $256 million. So 49ers in between a little bit of a rock and a hard place, but the rookie QB deal, the Purdy $889,000, that helps them a lot. The Lance savings helped them a lot. Hopefully that helps you understand why they had to make that trade with Trey Lance. They gave themselves the option power to actually exercise an option. And they exercised the option, and they cleared up the $6.3 million over the next couple of years. All right, financial lesson done. I'm headed off to the city. Tune in. We're going to do some lives from all over. It's a beautiful day out there. It's sunny outside, so I've got to go. Maybe we do one more from San Francisco Bay again today. Everybody sign up for The Athletic. Sign up for the channel. Subscribe right now. We'll talk to you all very soon. Take care.